So Jay, when you've spent so much time, on the farm with the growers and shippers of this industry, um, how do you view these innovations as improving, like the worker welfare or the human capital element on the farm?
That's an interesting question. I think a really clear, obvious one is think about controlled atmosphere storage rooms, which is a little past the farm, but not a lot. There's no oxygen in those rooms. It's 1% oxygen or less. And if you don't know what's in there, sometimes you've got to go in and see. And that is incredibly dangerous. And people have died from that. Now, regulations and processes have got a lot better, but no one should ever be going in a dangerous environment if they can help it, in our view. There's also a lot of like repackaging, right? So you've got to like take a whole box apart if it's more mature than you think and sort it again. So there's a lot of labor costs and inefficiencies there. So there's quite a bit of, and then just profitability. You know, I think Catherine mentioned this, and we're really aligned with you. We're very passionate about inspiring people to eat more produce, and if it tastes better or lasts longer in that fresh zone, like Shehbaz said, people will eat more. And like we always say, is there anything that would help the industry as a whole more than 5% or 10% more consumption? That will solve so many problems. So that's kind of where we're focused is you need short-term profitability, but it's really about growing the category.
Shehbaz, let's talk. I mean, your role, VP Post-Harvest Technology. All right. So when I think about that role, I think once it's off the tree, then you're the one who's kind of taking care of this technology. What makes Strella tick? Like, what is it that you're doing? How does this thing go? I mean, I know you can't share everything, obviously, but help people understand exactly what your role entails and how Strella really, what it does once the fruit walk us through the journey. Once that apple comes off the tree, how does Strella become part of that fresh life cycle?
It's a two-part answer. The first part answer, I would say, we, as Catherine mentioned, we grew up with apples and pears. And then I come in and then we start going to avocados and bananas and mangoes and papayas. And, we expand it to everything that we can think of. So, that's one part of my role. The second part of the post of harvest technologist or technology is, once the product comes out of harvest, what we do at Strella is, we have our sensors. We make sure that we are listening. As you said, we can't tell you everything, but we'll still mention we are listening and we are hearing what is happening to that particular fruit in that period of time. And then correlating that with the freshness of the product, the way the consumer and the retailer is going to accept it. And that's the relationship and the correlation I make along with our other smarty pants that we have in the company. One of the things that we did with that much amount of funding that we got was hire a whole bunch of more smarty pants, including me. And we've got a job to do, and we do our smarty pants job. That's what we do.
I love that. Now let's talk about. I kind of want to come back to that. What you mentioned earlier, you've seen all these solutions through your role at Curation Foods and all of the different work that you've done for this industry as it relates to innovation. Innovation in fresh produce, really, folks, it comes down, yes, some of that is the variety of the product, but usually it comes down to either how products are packaged or, different ways, like, that value added section, like the snacking category boom. That's kind of what our industry views as innovation. And of course we're always, I don't want to dismiss the fact that we are constantly striving to bring the most flavorful and delicious fruits and vegetables, and also the most grower friendly fruit and vegetable varieties mainstream. So that is a huge part of innovation as well. Okay. But from a consumer point of view, the way you interface with innovation at the grocery store is typically through like these new, like whether it's like the salad kits that, which is how I first met with Shehbaz, or the snacking category, you see that expanding, or all of these new packaging solutions, most of which are rooted in, sustainability goals and or shelf life goals. So let's talk about what you said really at the top of this show, Shehbaz. You were saying, you mentioned coatings and packaging, and Strella's like the outlier. It's something else. And I want to emphasize to people like packaging and coatings, like that's not really what the consumer wants. We know that the consumer is driving retailers, and especially driving every brand in the produce department in particular. We've got the raw, healthy, closest to earth food, and then so much of it's packaged in plastic. And that's a whole nother discussion on how, so many of these other packaging alternatives, can't necessarily, we don't have a really good swap for it yet, or else it would have already existed. So what I'm getting at is packaging isn't really it's not the love language of consumers, and certainly consumers don't want to think about coatings being on their food. And so let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, that's really been, and I didn't know it till you and I talked about Strella, but that's really been what we've hung our hat on as it relates to mitigating food waste in the supply chain, until of course Strella came along.
Well, if you ask for my opinion, I've been in this industry, and in the last 11 years, I was involved in packaging. So if I am given an option to eat a fruit that was packed in a packaging versus something in a coating, I prefer packaging because I don't know what's in the coating. I've only known, I just don't know what's in the coating. Not all the packaging is bad because of the supply chain. Because of the packaging, we are able to provide a food safe and a healthier option to the consumer. Right? The supply chains have become longer. And you were right. All the innovation has been for the consumer. All the innovation that they see is either a different variety of product or it comes in a different packaging. That's all they get to see. With Strella, we're using none. We're neither discounting the fact of the packaging or the coatings or the chemical treatments or whatever. We are providing a better experience to the consumer by not including anything which could be considered unsustainable, right? If we just completed a trial, and we figured without just using Strella and our quality management platform, we were able to extend the fresh life of a product by 40%. Now that is huge. We didn't use no coatings, we didn't use no packaging as such, but just by listening, just by rearranging inventory from a FIFO to a FIFO, if we can provide a better tasting experience and a product that can last up to 40% more, that's what we are providing by Strella. And I think consumers are going to appreciate the freshness. You can have something last 5 years, and if you eat it and you cannot even taste an apple, if you close your eyes, and I always, because my background is food science, I always tell people to do this experiment where they can relate between taste, flavor, and aroma. So I tell them, go get some cinnamon sugar and just eat cinnamon sugar, have a first taste, and then close your nose and then taste it again. You will not taste anything. And you don't want your produce to be, crunchy, but then you're like, if you close your eyes, you can't tell it. Did I bite into an apple or a pear or a radish for that? Or a potato, a potato can be crunchy. So I think, that's the task that we have on our hand, and we've been quite successful. And now the goal is to translate that knowledge, that success that we've had in apples and pears, and then bring it to other commodities as well, like a banana and an avocado and a mango and a papaya.